This is an R Media podcast. This episode is supported by Vixen, Australian-made skincare powered by plant cell technology and designed to bring real simplicity back to skincare. Love has never been one size fits all, and these are the stories we love to tell at the Australian Women's Weekly. For over 90 years, we've been bringing you stories of hope, of heart and connection that reflect the world we live in. And now it's time for a new chapter with the Australian Women's Weekly Love Stories podcast. Hi, love. How are you? So I know you're as obsessed with rediscovering all that 90s nostalgia as I am. Remember how crap our eyebrows were back then? My God, we plucked those suckers into submission. Anyway, I can't wait to tell you all about a chat I just had with Katie Noonan. Remember Katie from George? We had a big chat all about that and plenty of other stuff. Anyway, I'll tell you all about it when I speak to you. All right, love you. Bye. When I broke up with my fiancé, it was a week before COVID locked our world down. And the best thing about this timing was that I didn't need to tell anyone my future no longer looked the same, because that was a conversation I wasn't ready to have. Navigating who you are and what's ahead after a breakup or a loss of any kind is one of life's toughest journeys. And singer-songwriter Katie Noonan is currently treading that path. In the space of 2 years, she's lost her dad and seen her marriage of over 20 years come to an end. And throughout that, she's rediscovering who she is, as a mum, as a friend, as a daughter, and as a single woman. And that's what she's joining us to talk about today. Because what happens when the life you thought you were supposed to lead no longer exists?
I've actually been being really hard on myself, to be honest, and sort of questioning my whole reality. Like, it's not been easy suddenly being single, and I sometimes just see a family with 2 young boys and I just burst into tears because it's like, oh, that was my life and it isn't now.
I'm Tiffany Dunk, and this is the Australian Women's Weekly Love Stories. Katie, thank you so much for joining us here on Love Stories.
Thank you for having me.
I've been really excited to chat to you for a lot of reasons. But I was wondering, there's a lot of stuff going around virally at the moment on who were you in the 90s. And I wondered if that's a challenge that you've taken part in and if you could take us back to the 90s and who Katie was then.
Well, when I think of the 90s, I deeply miss my eyebrows. I don't know what happened in the 90s, but we were obsessed with those thin eyebrows. Luckily, mine grew back, but unfortunately, I started my band in 1996, so there's a fair amount of footage of my disastrous fashion choices in the 90s. The 90s was, it was awesome. I finished school in 94. I went to the Queensland Conservatorium of Music in 95 and found my tribe, met the future father of my children, found my community, moved into a classic share house, with a bunch of actors and thespians, and started my band George, and we had our first gig in 1996 on the Gold Coast. And then very, very lucky to sort of just find my voice as a young songwriter and find my tribe and start a band with my brother. The other awesome thing about the 90s was that the internet, well, it did exist, but it didn't exist for most normal people, Obviously, the tech world had very, very slow dial-up, and I remember the dial-up over the phone line. But it was a simpler time in that way, because even though the internet has made us more connected than ever, I actually think it's made us more disconnected than ever. And we all have a fairly, I think most of us have an arduous relationship with technology now, and being able to turn off and have a digital detox and all that stuff. In the 90s, you didn't have to do that because we were in a permanent digital detox. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Just had to worry about your flip phone and Snake. I think that was about it, right?
And texting was like you had to go AAB, to get the letters. A text took about 20 minutes to write. So you didn't bother. You called instead. Whereas now we just text and message and And because I'm a Xennial, which apparently is between, I thought it was 77 and 84, but I'm 49 next month. I came to the internet as an adult, so I could actually observe it rather than being born into it like this generation who don't know the world without the internet, and their parents have shared pictures online of them, without their permission since they were babies perhaps. And whereas I always sort of was like, hold on, I think because I saw it as an adult and I also realized the power of it and the danger of it, but also the beautiful community of it, I was able to observe it rather than be immersed in it, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is that double-edged sword, I think, and especially for kids, and you would know this as having children yourself who've grown up not knowing anything, but it is a place where you find connection. It is a place where if you're not there, where are you? And it is wonderful that you can, I guess, find your own unique tribe in that way, and you can't put it back in the box, right?
Yeah, we were pretty full on hippies, so I brought my children up without a television and actually no screens until it just became really hard for them at school because people were like, you don't know what Minecraft is, and blah, blah, blah. And then also now education, kids are being given iPads when they're like 5 or 6, which is I have a lot of thoughts on that. I don't agree with that in many ways, but we were sort of hippies. We sort of grew up slightly off the grid, solar powered, water tank, no garbage pickup. I got very good at recycling. 2.5 acres of, backing onto national forest. So because my work life is very city and stage and whatever, my home life, I wanted to be different and I wanted to bring my kids up out of the city. So we were actually, and they started in Steiner School as well, which is a very child-led, play-like education system. Yeah, we sort of went against that a bit, but then obviously we had to give in and they got an iPad and then they eventually got a phone. And look, now they have a beautiful community of friends on predominantly Insta. Facebook's for boomers, by the way, so of course they don't do Facebook. But it's a lovely community, particularly, boys talking to each other and showing each other love and because their father was a stay-at-home dad and, we're very much a family about talking about our emotions. They are very loving and open with their male friends, which is lovely to see. Yeah.
That's beautiful because I think there's a real crisis with young boys at the moment where, even though the world has moved on and we're so much more educated around talking about our emotions, talking about feelings, there's still that really rigid sense with a lot of boys,
I think being a mother of, and, I call myself an equalist now. I think feminism has almost bordered into misandry at some times. And so even though I do still consider myself a feminist, I am the mother of 2 boys and men now. Dexter's 21 in a few weeks and Jonah's 20 in October. Yeah. I think young men get a really rough, broad brushstroke, this term of toxic masculinity. And look, I've met those guys. I've been in boardrooms with them. They absolutely exist. But I've also met plenty of toxic feminine women, toxic femininity. But they really have been given that broad brushstroke, which I think is, I understand the etymology of it and the history of it, but it is quite it's a difficult time. They don't know whether to open the door and be chivalrous or, we're just, the definitions and the roles are changing, which is fabulous. So they should be, and they should be investigated regularly. But yeah, I have found moments where my boys have definitely not been treated as fairly, honestly, like at high school and stuff, because they were boys. Yeah, which is a strange thing to observe. Yeah. I think the thing is, look, we're just human beings. I think gender, religion, all of the things, it doesn't matter. It's just being a human being and being kind. And, you know, all of us are capable of that, regardless of he, she, they, them, whatever. We just need to be kind to each other. Yeah.
100%. It's the four-letter word that I feel like we don't use nearly enough. And kindness is, you know, like once you learn how to do it, once you exercise that muscle, it becomes so much easier to lean into that than to lean into something else, because you never walk away feeling great about yourself when you're unkind or someone's unkind to you, you know?
Yeah. I've just been in Italy, and I tell you what, the Italians, they just have really got it right in terms of kindness and family.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about kindness. It's all about La Dolce Vita, and it's all about respect for elders. They would not be called elderly there. And it's a bit like our First Nations community here. The elders are the wise ones. They're the ones that need the care and the respect and the, you know, I've learned so much from my mum in the last 2 years as she's navigated her grief, losing my dad, her, you know, love of her life of 56 years. And she's taught me so much. And yeah. But yeah, I think kindness, family, also chosen family, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we obviously all have our birth family, but the chosen family, the tribe that you make, I've always really tried to cultivate a strong sisterhood around me. Probably once I had 2 boys, I was like, okay, I need some feminine energy around me. I'm totally outnumbered. Yeah, but kindness, gratitude, belonging, community, all those things that I think, and COVID was such a tragic time of disconnection and loneliness. And I think it made us realize this growing scourge of loneliness, and particularly amongst our elderly. That really is something that I want to work on somehow, with music and taking it to our elders more easily. Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful idea. Music's obviously played such a huge role in your life since you were young and through tough moments as well. And you just touched on the passing of your father. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
Can you tell me how that really played a part in helping you navigate that grief, and also what else helped during that time?
Well, I got to say, my dad was the most beautiful patient. He was very sick for the last 17 years of his life, and we almost lost him many times. He was incorrectly diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, but he and was medicated for that. And the medication for Parkinson's is horrendous.
It's really tough.
It's horrible. So we lost him. His spark went. And my mum didn't. Anyway, it ended up being an incorrect diagnosis. He had normal pressure hydrocephalus, which is essentially fluid on the brain that can be fixed via a shunt. So in his 80s, he went and had shunt brain surgery very bravely. But so it was a long journey. And then my mum, you know, she looked after my dad at level 4 care, which is the highest level there is, for 17 years. And particularly the last 10 were harrowing. Just so I don't know how she did it. And my brother and I were so worried about her, about the carer. But she just really, they were soulmates. She took her wedding vows absolutely, and in sickness and in health. And luckily we got to bring him home. And his geriatrician said that my mum gave him an extra 10 years of life. So I'm so grateful to her for that, because I wasn't even sure if my dad would meet my kids. I mean, he had a massive stroke before Dexter was born. So, yeah. And through that journey, he was just so brave and so kind. All the nurses fell in love with him. And my mum was so kind with her incredible, tender, loving care. I came to a new place of deep respect for nurses. Anyway, the good news is we got to bring him home, because a lot of people don't get to die at home. And thankfully, my dad did. He came home on Wednesday, March 20, 2024. And we were just around him for, and then we started singing. And of course, he was a profound Catholic. We started praying, we started doing the rosary. And as we were going through one of the Hail Marys, the last thing he said was, "I love you, Maggie." And it was a beautiful, perfect death at home, surrounded by his family, my brother and I, and mum, and a friend of ours who's a nurse. And we worked with this incredible group called Karuna, who are Buddhist palliative care nurses. So we could do the care in the end. It wasn't a nurse doing stuff like mum, Tyrone, and I could administer whatever he needed in the last couple of days. And it was beautiful. And he was totally at peace. He got the last rites from his priest, Father Twang, and he's definitely in heaven, hanging out with his best mates. So, but watching how kind and brave he was a huge lesson, because he had so many reasons to be angry. He lost so much faculty and facility, and, and the incorrect diagnosis really took so much from him. But certainly their journey, they're very profound Catholics, and so their faith got them through. And I'm a lapsed Catholic, but it was beautiful to observe. And I believe in JC. I think he's a lovely dude, and I love the basics of love one another as I have loved you, and do unto yourself unto others, which is essentially just be kind, don't be a dickhead. So yeah, watching their love was how I got through it. And then obviously the power of music, I ended up writing a piece. One of his favourite saints was St. Francis of Assisi, and so I set his prayer, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hardship, let me find love. Where there is, it's all about kindness, basically." And I wrote that piece for him, and that was helpful as well.
What a beautiful tribute for your dad, and your mum as well must have absolutely loved that. That must have been something that really helped her as well in that time and made her feel seen and appreciated.
Yeah, it was also overwhelming because grief it's not linear, it's circular. And she's still deeply grieving now. I mean, it's only 2 years. She met Dad when she was 21, 22. She was at the Sydney Conservatorium. It's actually a pretty cute story. They met on a TV show called Showcase, which was like a classy talent show on Channel O.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, and Dad won the viewers' vote and Mum won the judges' vote. Aww. And 3 weeks later they were engaged, and 1 year later they were married. And 1 year later, my brother arrived. So Catholics don't mess around. They got on with it. Married in 1969, and just the real deal, like, the real deal love. Yeah.
Coming up, an inspiring lesson in resilience that Katie learned from her own mum. I'll see you in a bit. Mother's Day always makes me pause a little and really think about the women who've shaped me and how rarely I actually take time to do something just for them. So this year, I'm planning to give my mum something that up until now, I've just been doing for myself. I've been using Vixen for the past couple of months. Their all-in-one Australian-made skincare with Apple stem cell technology has been the fix I didn't even know my skin needed. Dry patches? They're gone. Redness? It's really calmed, and my skin feels super soft, which I love. So, want to get on board with me? Head to vixen.com.au and use the code LOVESTORIES for a little Mother's Day gift. It's such a simple, beautiful way to show any woman in your life just how much they mean to you. You'll even get a handwritten, personalised card just for them, so it arrives at their door feeling really special. You're incredibly positive in your outlook about loss and grief, but what do you do in those times? Grief isn't linear. When it does feel overwhelming, where do you muster the courage to continue going through?
Listen, I've been through, I think a lot of artists are prone to the melancholy. We're prone to depression, and I certainly am. And the last 2 years have been the hardest 2 years of my life. I lost my darling dad in March 2024. And then in November, I was told my marriage was over. So that was, no one goes into marriage thinking it's going to end, and we were together for we were together for 26 years. And so that's basically my entire adult life. So for me, the way I process my emotions, and it has been like this since I was a teenager, is through music. So, these songs just fell out. The first one was "This Isn't What I Signed Up For," which I actually released as the first single off my upcoming record. And I just tried to let the music flow and acknowledge that I'm not okay, and I am sad, and I am grieving, and I'm angry, and I'm all the things. And that's a very normal part of life. I also have found incredible support online. So, I never wanted to do Facebook or Instagram or any of those things, but I was on with a record label and they said, well, if you don't do it, we'll do it and pretend to be you. And I was like, oh dear, right. Well, so I decided to really embrace it as a positive community and a very caring, supportive community. So, but also I'm a chronic oversharer. I mean, that just comes as a songwriter. So, like, I had a really bad batch of deep depression about a month ago, and I just wanted to acknowledge that and go, thanks, Q, for holding me and letting me be seen in this grief as a divorcee. And, the reality is 50% of marriages fail. So, of my 10 girlfriends, 5 of us are going through divorce. So whether that's the rage of perimenopause, whether it's COVID, whether it's whatever it is, that's what's happening. But the support I've felt online from women a little bit older than me or whatever, but women who've been through what I'm going through and just acknowledge it and feeling seen. And I would sit there and just bawl my eyes out reading these comments from strangers, but we feel like friends because we've got this shared experience that we are going through and we can support each other. And it is virtual, but it's actually been super meaningful for me. Yeah, and men as well, not just women, predominantly women, but, beautiful men as well who've
humans.
Lost. Yeah, humans, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting because, at the start of this conversation, we talked about social media and how that's been really difficult because we can't switch off. But then here's a time where it's found its way to be incredibly useful and found you this support of a community that maybe you wouldn't have found if you were trying to deal with this on your own without any of these resources.
I would not have found it. And I've actually joined this, there's a Facebook group for, this sort of stuff. And it's been a really helpful tool that I can go to. And so I think, it is obviously in our life. And so we can live without it, but in my career, I sort of can't. So, it has been very supportive and kind. Yeah.
You mentioned that, you've battled depression for a long time. And, I follow you on Instagram and I have seen that you've been posting about really tough times. And when you are going through it, like your mental health is not fabulous and just explaining where you're at. We had a guest on our podcast a few months ago, Julie Goodwin, who's also battled with depression.
Been
very vocal. But she has an incredible quote, and it was that she lives by, and it's that shame dies in the daylight. So when you start talking about it, when you open up about it, there's nothing to feel ashamed of anymore. And I think by speaking out and using that public platform, you're doing your part to help other people around you feel seen.
Well, we're all just humans. Just because I happen to be a singer-songwriter and have a slightly more public life than others, we're all going through these troughs and valleys and peaks and, life. Look, if we didn't understand sadness, we wouldn't know happiness because so you have to have the dark, like, for example, when you're sick, say you got a head cold, when you get better, you go, oh gosh, I feel so much better. And if you hadn't been sick, you wouldn't realize how great it is to be not sick, So, and mental health and depression and anxiety and all of these things, they are legitimate diseases. They are as legitimate as the flu or whatever other. It is so important to destigmatize when you don't have great mental health, because I don't know anyone in the world who doesn't have moments of difficulty being a human. And my gosh, at the moment, if you are anyone with any empathy is looking at the world and pretty frightened and scared and ashamed of how fellow human beings are being treated, and feeling helpless. And, it's watching the news it's full on. I mean, we know when we grew up, the news was at 7:00 until 7:30, and that was it. And then the television switched off, and we only had 4 channels. And now nothing switches off, and we look at our phones first thing in the morning. And I was actually just walking up the street yesterday looking at these lovely young backpackers who were getting ready. I think they were French, and they were all just sitting there looking at their phones and not talking to each other. And we do that all the time. You go out to restaurants and people are they're not looking at each other. They're looking at their phones. And it's, anyway, I don't know how I got to that point, but, but yeah.
No, that's okay. Going back to the single, This Isn't What I Signed Up For, I think that the lyrics are so completely relatable. When you go into a marriage, when you go into any relationship, it's never expecting that it will end. You've got this future version of yourself that you're working towards. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that realization that your marriage was ending and that you were going to set off on this new unknown chapter, how that landed for you, and again, how you navigated that?
Well, to be honest, I just went into survival mode. You've just got to survive. And there were a lot of things that meant I had a lot of significant financial hurdles to overcome. So I had to really throw myself into work and worked very, very hard to set up my second act, my second chapter. I'm still processing it. I mean, it's only been 16 months. So the hardest thing, the worst thing about a divorce is what happens to the children. So, because they get, it's just horrible for them. Their whole world is, and they're young. They're not, now I'm not coping, and I'm 48 and they're like, 19 and 20. So that's the hardest thing. And I've absolutely stuffed stuff up and overshared with them. And I have regrets about not being my best self at times. But, I'm a human, and this isn't what I signed up for. And it is, it's a huge loss. But as I said in that song, I do try to remember the man I love. And that's why I ended up, my dear mate, Trent Dalton, gifted me, I think it was 135 pages of unpublished text lyrics that he wrote between 2000 and 2006. And that's when he was falling in love with the love of his life, Fiona. So alongside the sadness, he helped me, these words reminded me of the birth of love and the joy of new love, which Isaac and I absolutely did have. We were madly in love. And we got together in March 99. So 27 years ago. And, we got through a lot of tough things. COVID was, mind-blowingly stressful for artists. It was mind-blowingly stressful for everyone, but it was particularly arduous for us because obviously we rely on gatherings of people and blah, blah, blah. And we have no salaries or salary protection or sick leave or anything. And then my father-in-law died, and then my dad died. And so we got through a lot. But I think I just tried to remember the birth of love as well. And that's the next single, actually, which is called All That You Know, which is out in a few weeks. That's about loving someone so much that you want to know everything about them. You want to know everything they think, how they feel and all. You remember that, where it was like, what do you think?
100%.
And you'd talk for hours and so this album, even though there are some very sad moments and very, I guess, very honest and raw, but then trying to remember that love as well and honouring that. And
Coming up, I share my own story of breakup, and Katie and I compare war stories. I'm sure everyone can relate.
A warm hello to our new listeners. I'm Sophie, editor of the Australian Women's Weekly, and we're so happy you're joining us on this new chapter. For over 90 years, the Australian Women's Weekly has been a trusted home of real love stories, the kind that are messy and funny and quietly miraculous, just like real life, and just what we all need right now. Now, with the Australian Women's Weekly Love Stories, we're wrapping those stories around you in lots of new ways. Online, in your ears, wherever you are, making it easy as possible for you to enjoy. So, if you've grown up with the Weekly or you're just finding us now, welcome. And we'd love you to come on this new adventure with us, exploring every kind of love and the real things that matter to all of us. And because you're listening, and we value that, we've got something special just for you. A discounted subscription to the Australian Women's Weekly so you can dive even deeper into the stories you're liking. Just head to womensweekly.com.au to find out more. And thank you so much for being part of our Love Stories family. Now back to the chat.
You mentioned earlier sort of parenting through divorce and parenting through a breakup. And I think, parenting older children, I don't know, my parents broke up when I was 5 years old. So for me, it was easy. I knew both my parents loved me. There was a new routine. They didn't talk smack about each other.
Well, that's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, but it felt normal. I think when you're that little, you just accept what the adults in your life tell you. But I think when people are
when
older,
you're that little, you can't talk to them about big stuff because, of course, they're children.
Yeah.
And I honestly think part of my mistake was because my kids are very grown up, mature, young, beautiful men, that I did overshare my feelings. And I regret that now. I really do. So that it's very difficult at the moment. That's the hardest thing for me, is that sort of estrangement and difficulty, and just, I'm in a house on my own and I had to get a flatmate, like, my God, who wants to get a flatmate at 48? But I had to. I had no choice. But you can't put an old head on young shoulders, and hurt people. So we're all hurting deeply, all four of us in this family that has been blown apart. And so I just think I just have to surrender to time and hope that in time they will, we'll see the big journey. There are two sides to everything. We did the best we could, but we stuffed up, and that's okay. I remember a point in my 20s when I went, oh my God, my parents are humans. Wow, they're not infallible. They're not you observe them and go, wow, that wasn't a very, that time when you actually separate from them and go, oh, you're a human and you've maybe not handled that all that well, and that's okay,
I think as well, a lot of women I know say becoming a parent themselves makes them really appreciate their parents too, and how much that they did for them as well, and how little thanks there is sometimes.
Wow. I remember when in the early days when I had, I'd had a really complicated cesarean, mastitis, infected Caesar wound, having trouble feeding, all of that stuff, a child with absolutely horrible colic. And I remember going to my mum, why didn't you tell me it was this hard? And she sort of went, well, if we did, no one would have kids. Because in those early few months, and listen, I've got to say, the greatest superwomen in the world are single mums. I don't know how they do it. I mean, that's a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you do it, and that, you go, wow, and you want to give thanks. And actually, I just looked after my mum. I took her on a cruise and took her.
How fun.
Yeah, and she's never done a cruise, so she found that a bit like she enjoyed it, but it was, it was a lot. And I was there sort of as her carer. Like she's my elder, and so she needed some help. And then we went to Rome for a week, and I also took her up to Florence. And I wanted to do this trip for her as a thank you for the incredible care that gave my father and the extra years that she gave us with my dad. So that was really special. And it is that weird, we're in that sandwich era at our age where our parents are getting older and they're facing health challenges and their mortality and all of those things. And then our children are sort of becoming adults, and then it's a tricky era. But now my mum is, finally sort of coming back to herself, because she's only really thought she's been a full-time carer for so long that now she's like, what do I want to do? It's this new liberating thing, because
that's so cool.
She's a woman who grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, which was, it was you weren't allowed to have a job and be married until 1968.
Yeah. Couldn't have your own mortgage or bank, all of that stuff. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that your mum is discovering who she is, as a single woman, and you're doing the same. I mean, two different paths, but that you're doing it together.
We're both grieving. We're newly single women. I took her out for Valentine's Day last year. I was like, well, Mum, I'm going to take you out because it's our first Valentine's. Well, my first one in 26 years and her first one in 56, 7 years on our own. And we are both newly single women grieving a lot. And that's a special shared thing that we have that I don't think we ever expected to have, but she's been incredibly supportive of me. I couldn't have got through the last 16 months without my mum and my brother and my sister-in-law and my coven of beautiful sisters. Yeah.
What is your mum teaching you that she's doing that you're taking away? Because I think, as you said, like elders, they have so much wisdom, they have so much more life experience than us. So are there things that she's tackling this in a certain way that you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's something I'd like to do as well? And maybe are there things that you're able to help her with too?
Yeah, I want her to focus on self-care a little more, get a few more pedicures, a few more massages.
Yes, please.
And what she has taught me is that every day is a new day. So just let yesterday be in the moment, and every day is a new day, and just focus on gratitude and focus on, and also getting back to spirituality, whether it's meditation or I live near a Buddhist temple on the Sunshine Coast, just trying to get that back in my life a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that idea of loving yourself is drummed into all of us. Like, you have to love yourself, but that's so hard to do when you're feeling quite heartbroken.
Yeah.
So I guess in your journey of learning to love yourself again as a single person, what have you learned about Katie that you really love?
Oh, that's been a hard one, actually, because I've actually been being really hard on myself, to be honest, and sort of questioning my whole reality. Like, it's not been easy suddenly being single, and I sometimes just see a family with 2 young boys and I just burst into tears because it's like, oh, that was my life and it isn't now. And I guess I'm proud that I'm resilient, which is a boring word, but
No, it's an important one.
yeah, that I've got through it. And there have been times when I didn't think I could, to be honest. Yeah, very, very dark days. But it's always, always music that saves me. And I guess the fact that I've managed to transmute this pain into songs that hopefully mean something to someone else, that's the ultimate gift. And thus far, the people sending me beautiful messages saying, I feel seen, this has happened to me. And, that's the ultimate gift as a musician, because you realize, and also just as a human, to realize you're not alone. And so I'm proud that I've, put this journey into music. It's also really scary. Like putting that first single out, I was like, holy crap, this could not be, like, it's an intense song. There's nowhere to hide. It's just me and a piano, really letting it out. And I was scared. I was scared about what my boys would think, and because I would never, ever, ever want to hurt them in any way. But, they may not be ready for me to talk about this stuff. And that's tough. But it's like, well, that's what I do. It's what I've done for 30 years. I don't have any other way of processing that this is just what I do. So,
yeah. And I think saying something out loud, it makes it real, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I am a chronic oversharer. I'm not a songwriter, but I do love an overshare. My long-term relationship broke up the week before COVID lockdown. Could not have been timed better, to be honest, because I just didn't know how to tell people, because like you, I had this vision of what my future was. I thought I knew where my life was going.
Wow.
Had it been a week later, we might have been in a different situation. But I think it's that idea of voicing it. It's really hard, and then it becomes real, and then you have to answer questions about it. And so I had the cone of COVID to protect me from that a lot. So it's interesting to me that you are speaking out, that you're taking that really brave step. But you're right. The more we talk about it, the more we hear other people's perspectives, the more we hear other people's journeys, and the more it helps us heal in our own way.
And we're all... Oh, gosh, thank God it was the week before. That would have been... I'm just trying to imagine living with someone. I mean, COVID was so stressful anyway for people that,
So we've talked a lot about your boys today and raising beautiful boys in a world that isn't always kind to them. What do you hope that your boys learn about love?
Well, oh, gosh, I obviously... focusing on loving themselves, because you can't love someone else unless you love yourself. And I think I have had some difficulty with that myself, to be honest. I'm my own worst critic. But obviously you just want them to be happy. And thankfully, the whole social, like when we were growing up, if you didn't go to uni and get a job straight away, all this sort of pressure was on you. Whereas now it's really very different. They've chosen to not go to university and are just living their lives. And I think that's fantastic. I just want them to find someone that loves and supports them. And, I'd love them to be, I would love to be Nana Nunu sometime, not in the too close future, thank you very much, but I know they would be beautiful dads. They had a great dad to learn from, and a great uncle, a funkle Ty, and then my dad, who was such a beautiful man. So they've had, and their their grandfather John, they've had, 4 beautiful men, 4 beautiful men to learn from about how to love and how to parent and how to be a grandparent and to work hard to provide for your family, financially and emotionally and spiritually, and just hope to find someone that wants them to be their best selves, and have a good laugh. Life's a bit too serious. I need to learn to laugh more. yeah. I just felt like I haven't had a really good belly laugh in a long, it's been a pretty crap couple of years. But just and to have fun, someone who you have fun with, and who wants you to be everything they want to be, and the same in reverse. And yeah.
Well, then looking ahead for you, Katie, you've had so many different chapters in your life. What do you hope the next one looks like? Is there a goal that you're hoping to hit, or somewhere you hope to be, maybe if we talk again 10 years down the road?
Wow. Ooh, well, I would hope that my relationship with my boys is healed and we've got through this divorce. That's my biggest distress at the moment. And that's actually pretty heartbreaking. So I would hope that would be repaired and that we would be able to talk about things, they'll be in their late 20s. So, early 30s. Oh my God. So I would hope that I had found a bit more spirituality in my life and was able to give myself permission to laugh a bit more and take a bit more time to be rather than do. We're all human beings, but we all seem to be human doings. And I'd like to be a bit more of just being rather than doing. And to be hoping that my amazing mum, looking after my mum in her final chapter of her life. And, just moving on with the second act. I mean, the second chapter and the new, whatever that is, whether that's on my own, which I currently am, or whether it's with someone else, or who knows, just freedom to sort of explore my next chapter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the world is your oyster, or as my mum says, the world is your lobster. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. It's very Aussie. It's very Aussie. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Katie. I feel like I've taken a lot out of this conversation, and I'm sure everyone at home will also. And letting them know as well that your album, Alone But All One, is out June 26th. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a privilege to do what I do, and I am always grateful that people continue to give my notes a home. I'm very lucky.
Wow. Katie's honesty is just so incredibly refreshing. The way she talks about making mistakes, I mean, haven't all of us? I'm pretty sure nobody feels like they get it right when it comes to tackling that conversation about divorce or separation with their kids. Is there anyone out there who thinks they did it really well? And, the idea of starting over again in the aftermath of heartbreak, that's something we've all faced or will face at some point in our lives. I loved Katie's advice on remembering to let yesterday be. And I love that she's focusing on gratitude and really remembering the importance of having a great big belly laugh. The fact she's doing this shoulder to shoulder with her mum as well, so beautiful to hear about. If you enjoyed this episode, think about sharing it with someone that you think might be going through something similar. I'm sure they'll get as much out of it as you and I have. And you can head to womensweekly.com.au to learn more. Thanks so much for listening. This episode is supported by Vixen, Australian-made skincare powered by plant cell technology and designed to bring real simplicity back to skincare.
This is an R Media podcast.